Justin Baldoni's lawyers just clapped back against Blake Lively's lies in the most respectful yet spiciest filings I've read yet.
Any trouble. They weren't being silenced. Their content wasn't being questioned. Their content wasn't being collected, except for a few on TikTok. I believe there were 6 that were subpoenaed and parts of their content were being asked for whatever reason. But again, they weren't in any trouble. They weren't even really being subpoenaed. It was a social media app that was being subpoenaed, and they were a part of it for basic information. Not one of those content creators needed to spend a penny on this situation. They didn't need to fight this subpoena. What is the point of fighting the subpoena when only your basic information is going to Blake Lively's legal team to help her litigation?
Could Blake Lively's own testimony be the smoking gun that destroys her harassment claims? Justin Baldoni's legal team just delivered the most devastating response we've seen in this Hollywood legal battle. They're not just fighting back, they're exposing what they call outright lies and manufactured narratives. Was this all carefully orchestrated PR warfare disguised as a sexual harassment case? Because what just happened in court suggests Blake Lively might be in serious legal trouble. The gloves are officially off, and Baldoni's lawyers are calling her bluff with her own words.
Right. To then, seal it. It was sealed in the public accordance with Lively's protective order and asked that the court not rule on the seal for a week so that the parties can meet and confer, and Miss Lively may file a motion for continued sealing if she so chooses. Now, this then prompted a bunch of PR, seemingly from Blake's side. Oh, look, he's shaming us. He's putting this out there. How dare they? This is this is about a media campaign. Meanwhile, it's Blake who's clearly speaking to the media and painting this as a victim of Justin's actions, which this is all just legal act.
The courtroom drama just escalated to nuclear levels. Justin Baldoni's attorneys have filed what can only be described as the most respectfully savage legal response of this entire case. They're systematically dismantling Blake Lively's claims, and they're doing it with surgical precision. Here's what just went down. Lively's legal team is in full panic mode after Baldoni's lawyers filed her sealed deposition transcript. The transcript that Lively desperately wants to keep hidden from the public. Why? Because according to Baldoni's team, her own testimony completely contradicts her harassment allegations. Kevin Fritz, representing the defendants, dropped this bombshell in his latest filing. Lively admitted under oath that she has no personal knowledge of any ongoing smear campaign, except for information that's so damaging it had to be redacted from court documents. Think about that for a second. The woman claiming to be the victim of a coordinated media attack just admitted she has zero evidence it actually exists. But here's where it gets really interesting. Fritz argues that Lively is now shifting her entire strategy. She's abandoning the harassment narrative and pivoting to defamation claims. Why would someone do that unless their original case was falling apart?
Continuing, this is the motion to strike the depo. Lively's lawyers then responded in rushing to file on the public docket for the entirety of the 292-page transcript of the day they received it, with no plausible legal reason to do so. The Wayfarer defendants and their counsel have proved Miss Lively's point. The correspondence Monday with Ezra to Judge Lyman says slamming teams Baldoni's blunt move and wanting everything permanently sealed ASAP. The transcript was filed in support of the argument that there is no basis to assert that Brian Friedman and his firm have participated in, fueled and advanced a smear campaign against Ms. Lively, such that their conduct has amounted to public relations work rather than an attorney.
The legal implications are staggering. Baldoni's team is essentially arguing that Lively filed bogus harassment claims and is now trying to weaponize the legal system itself. They're saying her real goal isn't justice. It's creating a false narrative through lawfare. Now, let's break down exactly how Fritz dismantled Lively's latest desperate move. When Lively's team filed what they called a motion to strike, Fritz didn't just respond. He exposed fundamental legal incompetence. First, Fritz pointed out that Lively's lawyers fundamentally misunderstood the rule they cited. Federal Rule 12 only allows courts to strike pleadings, things like complaints and answers. It doesn't cover exhibit attachments like deposition transcripts. In simple terms, Lively's lawyers either don't understand basic civil procedure, or they're throwing legal spaghetti at the wall hoping something sticks.
Here's what this actually is. And Fritz responded. And I'm going to read you here, and then we're going to read some of Leanne's commentary. As counsel, Wayfarer, yada, yada, yada. Motion to strike her final deposition transcript, currently under file seal. Fritz begins by correcting Lively's assert in the motion that the attached transcript was a rough draft. He says it's the final edit. In the footnote, he explains, we are unclear why Miss Lively, I don't think you guys can see that. Let me make sure I can lift this up. We are unclear, here it is, why Miss Lively refers to her deposition transcript as a rough draft, given that the document is not marked as rough, as such versions of transcripts traditionally are. So he's making it clear, this is not a draft. This means Lively's statements are true.
But Fritz didn't stop there. He did something absolutely brilliant. He cited Judge Lyman's own previous cases as authority. This is legal chess at the highest level. He's essentially telling the judge, Your Honor, you've already ruled on this exact issue before, and the law is crystal clear. The most devastating part of Fritz's response focuses on a glaring contradiction in Lively's position. She's claiming the transcript should be struck because it was filed to create fodder for their media campaign. But here's the problem. The transcript was filed under seal. The public can't see it. How exactly does a sealed document serve as media fodder? Fritz exposes the logical impossibility of Lively's argument. If she's really concerned about media manipulation, she has the power to keep the document permanently sealed. But doing so creates terrible optics for someone claiming to fight for justice. Why would a harassment victim want to hide her own testimony? This reveals something crucial about Lively's strategy.
Accurate transcripts, that's what they submitted. Let's continue. Miss Lively frames her argument as a motion to strike pursuant to Federal Rule of Civil Procedure 12.5 in the court's inherent power. However, Rule 12 does not authorize this court to strike documents other than pleadings. And then look what they do. They're quoting Lyman cases. Judge Lyman cases is what they're doing.
She wants to control the narrative on both fronts, claiming media victimization while simultaneously trying to prevent the public from seeing evidence that might contradict her claims. Fritz then addresses what might be the most explosive allegation in this entire case. Lively claimed that details from her deposition were immediately leaked to tabloid media. Fritz didn't just deny this. He systematically destroyed the accusation. He pointed out that multiple people had access to the deposition information. Lively herself, her husband, her multiple attorneys, legal staff from her law firm, administrative staff, and even the catering staff who served lunch. If there was a leak, it could have come from anyone, including Lively's own team. This is strategic brilliance.
Pleadings including only the complaint answer to cross claims and counterclaims. They do not include exhibits submitted in connection with oppositions to motions. And then there's another Lyman case. He points out to Lively that their filed motions under strike only allow the court to strike documents that constitute pleadings. It doesn't allow to strike attachments. He then cites two of Lyman's own cases as authority on this point, which is just brilliant. When you can do that, you absolutely do that to remind the judge, you know this is what this is.
Fritz isn't just defending against the leak allegation. He's turning it into evidence of Lively's tendency to make accusations without proof. He's establishing a pattern of behavior where Lively points fingers without evidence. The timing of this legal battle reveals something even more significant. Fritz points out that Lively wasn't required to file any additional response to the court after their motion to quash was largely granted. So why did she? The answer exposes Lively's real strategy. She filed what Fritz calls a gratuitous letter to the court, additional argument disguised as a motion to strike. She was trying to get in the last word to control the narrative one more time. But this tactical mistake backfired spectacularly. By filing additional arguments, Lively gave Fritz the opening he needed to respond with evidence, including her own deposition testimony that apparently contradicts her entire case.
Further, Miss Lively does not contend that the deposition transcript contained abusive, improper, or libelous materials, which might warrant the court's exercise of its inherent power. Fritz is arguing here that Lively has not even stated that the transcript contains anything bad, nor can she, as it's her own words. Let's continue. After all, the deposition transcript records Miss Lively's own words. Miss Lively contends that the transcript must be stricken based on her speculation that it was filed for the purpose of the transcript in the public domain fodder for their media campaign. The transcript, however, was filed under seal, and Miss Lively has the option of moving to keep the document sealed, although it's puzzling why she seeks to conceal her own testimony in an action in which she is the plaintiff.
Fritz makes it clear that Lively invited this response by opening the door with her unnecessary filing. In legal terms, she walked right into a trap of her own making. Could this strategy completely backfire in court? Because fighting back against false accusations isn't retaliation, it's self-defense. Let's rewind for a second and understand how we got to this nuclear moment. This legal war began when Blake Lively filed sexual harassment allegations against Justin Baldoni during the production of It Ends With Us. She claimed there was a coordinated smear campaign designed to destroy her reputation and career. Initially, the media narrative heavily favored Lively. Major outlets ran stories portraying her as a victim of Hollywood's toxic culture. The harassment allegations seemed serious and credible on the surface. But then something changed. Baldoni's legal team began fighting back aggressively, filing counterclaims and demanding depositions. They weren't just defending, they were going on the offensive, claiming Lively's allegations were fabricated.
Very good point here. Her assertion that it should be stricken because it was only filed to serve as fodder for the untraceable smear campaign is made without any evidence, because there isn't any, and Lively has the choice to permanently seal her own testimony, although it would be bizarre for her to seal her testimony because she's made it clear she's here to testify in court, and this is her testimony under oath in a court. We continue. Let's go to page 2. He then takes a shot at Lively by stating that she was not required to file any further response to the court. He also reminds Lively that their motion to quash was largely granted, which is what this paragraph here is discussing. Fritz then argues in the blue section here that because of her gratuitous letter to the court, which was further an argument on our opposition to motion, which was disguised as a motion to strike, Lively invited Wayfair to respond with evidence in the transcript attached.
The turning point came when Fritz filed that explosive letter revealing details from Lively's deposition. Suddenly, the narrative began shifting. If Lively really was the victim of a smear campaign, why was she trying so desperately to keep her own testimony sealed? That's what brought us to this moment, a full-scale legal war where both sides are fighting for their professional lives and reputations. From a legal standpoint, what Baldoni's team just did is absolutely brilliant. They're not just responding to Lively's motion, they're systematically exposing the weaknesses in her entire case strategy. First, they're arguing that Lively fundamentally misunderstands court procedures. Her motion to strike the deposition transcript? Fritz points out that the rule she cited doesn't even apply to the documents she wants removed. In simple terms, this means Lively's lawyers either don't understand basic civil procedure, or they're making desperate arguments hoping something sticks. But here's the most devastating part. Fritz is citing Judge Lyman's own previous cases as authority. This is legal chess at its finest. He's essentially telling the judge, Your Honor, you've already ruled on this exact issue before, and the law is clear. The strategic implications go even deeper. By pointing out that Lively could choose to permanently seal her own testimony, Fritz is calling her bluff. If her testimony really supports her harassment claims, why hide it? The optics are terrible for someone claiming to be fighting for justice. Most importantly, Fritz addresses the leak allegations head-on. When Lively claimed that details from her deposition were leaked to tabloids, Fritz didn't just deny it. He pointed out that the leak could have come from multiple sources, including Lively's own team, her husband, her attorneys, or even the catering staff. This is legal warfare at its most sophisticated level. What we're witnessing could fundamentally change how celebrity harassment cases are handled in the future. If Baldoni's team proves that Lively manufactured this controversy for PR purposes, it could set a precedent that makes it much harder for false accusers to weaponize the legal system. The broader implications are staggering. This case is exposing the intersection of Hollywood power politics, media manipulation, and legal strategy. We're seeing how modern PR campaigns can be disguised as legitimate legal actions. Fritz's filing reveals something crucial about the current media landscape. When he points out that Lively's team immediately went to the press after the deposition filing, he's exposing a pattern. This isn't about seeking justice through the courts. It's about controlling the narrative through media manipulation. But here's what makes this case so significant. Baldoni's team isn't backing down. They're not trying to settle quietly or make this go away. They're fighting back publicly and aggressively, demanding accountability for what they claim are false accusations. This could signal a shift in how high-profile defendants handle harassment allegations. Instead of immediately apologizing and hoping for leniency, we might see more aggressive pushback against claims that lack evidence. The entertainment industry is watching this case closely because the outcome could determine whether accusations alone are enough to destroy careers, or whether due process and evidence still matter. If Lively loses this case, it could send shockwaves through Hollywood. It would prove that even with media support and public sympathy, False accusations can't survive legal scrutiny. And if this case moves forward with Baldoni's counterclaim succeeding, it could expose an entire system of manufactured controversies and strategic legal harassment that goes far beyond just these two celebrities. The real question isn't whether Blake Lively will win or lose. It's whether the truth can survive in an era of weaponized narratives and trial by media. What do you think? Is this a case of legitimate harassment allegations being defended, or sophisticated PR warfare disguised as justice? Drop your take in the comments below, because this legal battle is far from over, and the implications will reshape Hollywood for years to come.